Hola! Today we're learning about stem-changing verbs, and we're going to focus on a specific kind. Those stem-changing verbs that change from an E to an IE. I am teacher Catalina, and I teach Spanish. If you're looking to learn Spanish or to improve your Spanish, you're at the right place. So now, I would like to invite you to click that subscribe button so that you can find the channel and all of the videos easily. If at any time you feel like smashing that like button, please do. It really helps my channel. And to my loyal viewers, thank you so much. It is because of you that I'm able to bring all of these lessons to everyone. For free resources like handouts, worksheets, and more videos, go to teachercatalina.com. And by the way, you can get this handout specifically for this video. So let's get started. What is a stem-changing verb? A stem-changing verb is nothing else than a verb that needs a little extra change in the stem. Does that mean we still have to conjugate it and change the ending? Absolutely. Stem-changing verbs have a change in the ending because that way we know who's performing the action. But in addition to that, in some forms, in the majority of the forms, we also have a change in the stem. I know it can sound a little complicated, but I'm going to walk you through all of them. So before we get into conjugating stem-changing verbs, let's go ahead and review the parts of a verb. That way, we can make the changes exactly where they belong and nowhere else. So let's look at this verb. That's the verb empezar, empezar, which means to begin or to start. By now, you probably know that the AR is what we call the ending. And whatever's left over, that's the stem. Again, one more time. That AR, that's what we call the ending. And whatever's left over, that's the stem. So what does a stem-changing verb do? Not only does it have a change in the ending, like we've been doing conjugating regular AR, ER, and IR verbs, but in addition, it has a change in the stem. And it's going to happen in most of the forms. I'm going to show you how. There are three types of stem-changing verbs that we're going to learn. The first one is going to be E to IE, which we're focusing on this video. Then we have O to UE, which you can watch that lesson here. And then we have E to I, and that lesson's here. So since we're focusing on verbs that change from an E to an IE, let's bring back the verb empezar, empezar, which again means to start or to begin. We know that the AR is the ending and whatever's left over, that's the stem. Now, I want you to pay close attention to that E that I've highlighted for you, that I've circled for you. That E is going to change to an IE in every single form except for nosotros and vosotros. So let me say that one more time. That E changes to IE in all forms except for nosotros and vosotros. Empezar is an AR verb. So I want to bring two things to our board here. We need to have our subject pronouns because we're conjugating. And I also want to bring the endings for AR verbs, which again, if you need to review how to conjugate AR verbs and its endings, this is the lesson that you want to look at. But for now, I'm just going to bring my subject pronouns and my AR verb endings since empezar, after all, is an AR verb. It's a stem changer that ends in AR. So we still are going to use those AR verb endings. So we already know that empezar is an E to IE. And we know that this specific E is the one that is going to change to IE. So let's start conjugating. If I want to say I begin or I start, I am going to say empiezo, empiezo. Do you see how that E changed to IE? Good. And we also use the yo ending, empiezo. That's how you conjugate a stem-changing verb. Now, let's move on to the to form. To form. The to form should end in as, as. But we also know that E changes to IE. So it would be tú empiezas. Tú empiezas. Él, ella, and usted would be empieza. Empieza. Again, that E changed to IE. Now, we're at the nosotros and the vosotros conjugations, which we know that the rule says that they do not have a stem change. So we're just going to leave it alone. So for nosotros would be empezamos. Empezamos. Again, no change. Then we have vosotros empezáis. Empezáis. No change. And finally, we get to our last conjugation, which would be empiezan. Empiezan. And that's for ellos, ellas, and ustedes. We do have to change that E to an I, which is again why we end up with empiezan. Ellos empiezan, ellas empiezan, and ustedes empiezan. And just like that, we conjugated our first stem changing verb. Again, empezar is a stem changer E to IE, which means that E changes to IE in all forms except for nosotros and vosotros. So again, here are conjugations for the verb empezar. Empiezo, empiezas, empieza, empezamos, empezáis, and empiezan. So let's look at a few examples. Let's say I want to say they start Spanish class at 9 a.m. I'm going to say ellos empiezan la clase de español a las 9 de la mañana. Ellos empiezan la clase de español a las 9 de la mañana. But remember, if we're talking about we, about us, and I want to say we start Spanish class at 9 a.m., we have to remember that there's no stem change in the nosotros or the vosotros form. So that would look like this. Nosotros empezamos la clase de español a las 9 de la mañana. Nosotros empezamos la clase de español a las 9 de la mañana. Now that you've seen how this works, let's go ahead and bring a different verb here. This is the verb querer, querer, to want. Now, querer is an ER verb, so we have to use ER verb endings, but querer is also a stem changer. That E changes to IE in all forms except for nosotros and vosotros. So let's go through the conjugations of the verb querer together. By the way, querer, that U is silent. So you would say querer, querer. Let's start. For the yo conjugation, again, it's an ER verb, so ER verb endings, but that E changes to IE. So I'm going to say quiero. Yo quiero. I want. Tú quieres. Tú quieres. Él, ella, and usted quiere. Quiere. Now, warning, nosotros and vosotros, they do not have a stem change. You leave them alone. Do not stem change nosotros and vosotros. So that would look like this. Nosotros queremos. Nosotros queremos. Vosotros queréis. Vosotros queréis. And now we go back to stem changing because we have ellos, ellas, and ustedes, and that form does have a stem change. So that E will change to IE. And it would look like this. Ellos quieren, ellas quieren, and ustedes quieren. So one more time, I want to point out to you that because querer is an ER verb, all of our endings are right here, like if it was a regular ER verb. So we have o, es, hemos, es, and en. The only thing that we have to remember is that querer is a stem changer. So we have to change that E to IE in all forms except for nosotros and vosotros. So let's look at a few examples. Let's say that we want to say, you want to speak Spanish. We would say, tú quieres hablar español. Tú quieres hablar español. Now, let's talk about Juana. Juana is a she. So we want to say, she wants to speak French. Juana wants to speak French. We could say, Juana quiere hablar español. Juana quiere hablar español. Or ella quiere hablar español. If we already know we're talking about Juana. Let's say we want to eat pizza. We want to eat pizza. Now, the first thing you have to remember is that the nosotros form does not have a stem change. So we have to be a little careful. We would say, nosotros queremos comer pizza. Nosotros queremos comer pizza. So now that you know how to conjugate stem-changing verbs E to IE, here's the list with common stem-changing verbs in which the E on the stem changes to IE. Some of these verbs have multiple E's on the stem, so I've circled for you the one that has to change. Make sure that you pay close attention to that. Also, remember, these are verbs that end in AR, ER, and IR. So remember that you have to change those endings according to the endings that we learned before. If it's an AR verb, o, as, a, amos, ais, and an. If it's an ER verb, o, es, hemos, es, and en. And if it's an IR verb, o, es, imos, is, and en. Then you're going to handle the stem. So you're going to change that E to an I in all forms except for nosotros and vosotros. And that's it. You should be able to comfortably conjugate all of these stem-changing verbs and any stem-changing verb that comes your way that you recognize as an E to IE stem-changing verb. For right now, work on practicing eventually is going to become second nature. Muchas gracias for joining me today. Thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget that you can get this free handout and a lot of other free resources at teachercatalina.com. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button so that you and I can continue learning Spanish together. And if you have not yet smashed that like button, right now is the best time to do so. Remember that it really helps my channel. Muchas gracias y adios.